The Orlando Magic reportedly have completed their roster. Why the team outgrew Markelle Fultz and what Cory Joseph brings to the Magic, if that is indeed the signing. Plus, three-point shooting. We're seeing it in Summer League. Let's check it out on today's Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is July 19th, 2024. Happy College Football 25 Day to those who celebrate. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I am the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, we probably officially say goodbye to Markelle Fultz. Why the Magic outgrew such an important spiritual member of the team. Plus, what Cory Joseph brings to the Magic if he is indeed the signing that fill out the last roster spot on the team. Plus, we'll also talk about three-point shooting. We'll get to all that coming up here in just a moment. First, I want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, there's great Locked On podcasts covering every single team in the NBA. Just search for Locked On and the team you're looking for, the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. With the playoffs winding down, with sports starting to slow down here in the summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Markelle Fultz he's not a player that is universally understood. I want to acknowledge that there is and always has been a healthy debate about whether Markelle Fultz is the point guard for this team. And there are believers, there are non-believers, there's all this. But I think one thing we can all agree on, his detractors, his supporters, everybody, that Markelle Fultz was an absolute professional, was someone who worked his tail off just to wear the Magic uniform. And regardless of if this is indeed the final say that we have with Markelle Fultz, if this is indeed it, this is someone who will always have a home in Orlando. I want to make that perfectly clear. This dude is a Magic lifer, a Magic legend. I know I throw that term around oftentimes jokingly, but this is someone who embraced everything there is about Orlando, embraced the opportunity that the Magic gave him, was welcomed by the community, and really loves this community. Markelle Fultz is absolutely someone who is always welcome back in the Kia Center. He will be cheered the first time he comes in an opposing uniform. But the NBA is a business, and it is often a brutal business. As much as I think we all appreciate the family atmosphere that Jeff Weltman has created and that this Magic team has created, there are tough decisions that are made. And Jeff Weltman's even publicly acknowledged there are going to be tough decisions still to come. There are going to be a lot of heartaches saying goodbye to beloved players in the near future. And unfortunately, the first casualty of this is Markelle Fultz. Or it appears it will be Markelle Fultz at this point. I think we can all acknowledge that Markelle Fultz is an NBA player. But we can also acknowledge that his skill set was no longer compatible with what the Magic needed. And at the end of the day, this is how the Magic have evolved. When the Magic acquired Markelle Fultz back in 2019, they were a team that could afford to give a player space and time to figure himself out. They were the kind of team that could afford to let Fultz work his way back to health without any pressure. getting out of Philadelphia and again, Markelle, I think everyone in the Sixers organization loves Markelle. It's in the same way that everyone in Orlando loves him. It's the fans. It was the pressure of being the number one pick. It was the pressure of the playoff performance of the playoffs and needing to be good with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. It didn't work out for him with the injuries that he was facing. He needed to get away. He needed to get healthy. And the Magic gave him the space and the opportunity to do so. When he stepped on the floor for the first time in the 2020 season, though, it was clear that this was a kid who could still play, that still had a lot to offer the NBA. And through all the injuries, Fultz started to find himself again. But every time he took a step forward, it felt like something knocked him back. That confidence-boosting 2020 season cut short by COVID. He was never right in the bubble. We never got to see a playoff Markelle Fultz in 2020. 6 games into a really standout start to the 2021 season, Markelle tears his ACL. Has to miss the next year, comes back the 2022 season, starts to look like himself again. And then in 2023, a full healthy offseason, the first of his career, he starts to find himself. And yes, that magical year after coming back, he really started to find his confidence. He started to look like number one pick Markelle Fultz with the athleticism and dunking that he had, with his ability to get into the paint, with his jumper, and his confidence shooting threes. To say the least, if the Magic saw the version that Markelle Fultz finished the 2023 season as, when he averaged a career high 14 points per game, by the way, if they would have seen that version of Markelle Fultz, we might be having a different conversation. But 2024 proved to be another step back. 2024 proved to be a frustrating season for Markelle Fultz. Knee tendonitis early in the season knocked him out for about a month and a half. He revealed later on that he was dealing with small fractures in his knee. Now, again, how serious that was, it's not particularly clear, but he was getting treatment on it every single day. And it being in his surgically repaired knee, it was always concerning. And at the end of the day, the numbers don't lie. Markelle Fultz took only 18 three-pointers the entire season. And in a league that is so much about three-point shooting, on a team that is desperate for three-point shooting, we will talk about that in a little bit. On a team that is so desperate for three-point shooting, it was obvious that for all the good Markelle Fultz can do, for as valuable and as great as he is in that locker room, for all of that, the Magic always needed more. What they needed from that position was not something Markelle Fultz could effectively give them. And that is the reality of it. Markelle Fultz joined a team that was a surprise playoff team, but was still rebuilding. He returned from injury to a rebuilding team that could give him the cushion to figure his way out. That's not this Magic team anymore. Paolo, Banchero, and Franz Wagner have led this team back to the playoffs. They've led them not just to the playoffs or a cameo, but a serious chance of advancing, a serious chance of winning. There's no more waiting around for key players like Fultz to get healthy, to show their value. You could do that with maybe one guy. I've joked about this before, but really we're at the point where you really only take one injury risk, and that injury risk is Jonathan Isaac. The Magic could not afford to bet on Markelle Fultz anymore. Not on Markelle Fultz the person. Bet on Markelle Fultz the person. That is one of the greatest dudes in the world. They could not bet on Markelle Fultz the player anymore. They needed shooting. They needed some defense. They needed consistency. They needed a willingness to shoot as much as anything else. And that's just not who Markelle Fultz is or was in 2024. And it does not seem like they could bet a 2-3 year deal. They could bet on that again. Not with Anthony Black waiting in the wings, not with the contracts piling up the way that they are. The Magic had outgrown Markelle Fultz. They'd outgrown his usefulness. And again, you could just see it in how his role diminished. The Magic were bringing him off the bench. He was still their best point guard option off the bench. But when we got to the playoffs, and Fultz had a good playoff series against Cleveland. Games 4, 5, and 6 were pretty good. But teams knew the scouting report and his style and the skills that he brings don't work in the playoffs. And that's where we find ourselves. That's where things are situated now. And that's why the Magic had to come to the conclusion to move on. The Magic are not replacing Markelle Fultz with Cory Joseph, but the Magic are finishing their roster. What Cory Joseph adds to the team and what the roster looks like now, we'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Look, summer is not the best time for sports. I hate to say it because, we love sports. We love sports year round, but summer is not our time. I'm not a big baseball guy. We don't have baseball here in Orlando. We don't have the WNBA. We got soccer. Soccer's great. Go support the Orlando Pride. But if you want to keep the sports going, if you want to stay invested, FanDuel lets you do it whenever you want. All you have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime you're in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. You want to bet on the futures and bet that the Magic will win the Southeast Division? Pretty big favorites to do so. You can do that now on FanDuel. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel is an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. We want to thank you for making Locked On Magic part of your day. Every day for your next listen, be sure to check out the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without the screaming, without the ignorance that you sometimes get from the national media. You want the lowdown from the experts who know their team best on the biggest stories in sports. That's what Locked On Sports Today brings you. It's can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. That's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We were going to talk about this yesterday, and if you listened to yesterday's podcast, I do apologize for the hard left or right turn, whichever direction you want to go, for the hard turn that we took on the show. As I was recording, the news about Pat Williams broke. I got the email in my inbox. I checked my phone while I was recording the show. If you see me looking over here, there's my phone right there. If you're watching on YouTube, making sure nothing broke while I'm here. So I pivoted and we talked about Pat Williams. If you missed that conversation, it's about the 20-minute mark, 22-minute mark of yesterday's show. And obviously I'm reacting in real time. So I apologize as well if I was reading stuff for the first time in real time too. So I apologize if I rambled a little bit, as it was an emotional day for Magic fans everywhere. But news did come down on Wednesday that the according to Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype, the Orlando Magic will use their last roster spot on veteran point guard Cory Joseph. As one of my favorite follows on Magic Twitter pointed out, Cory Joseph is not a replacement for Markelle Fultz. Anthony Black is. Cory Joseph is there to be a good veteran in the locker room. He is there to be an emergency third point guard in case something goes wrong. He is there to be someone that can hold the ship steady if the Magic need to break glass in case of emergency. He is the 15th man on the roster. And so, yes, we will spend 5 minutes talking a little bit about him and what he brings, but know that if he is playing, that means there's a lot of injuries and the Magic just need someone to hold the boat steady, or someone has not developed the way that they need to, because Cory Joseph is very much kind of hanging on a thread in the NBA. Last year, he averaged only 2.4 points per game in 26 appearances. He was traded to the Indiana Pacers from the Golden State Warriors at the trade deadline and was waived on the same day, so did not finish the season last year. The 32-year-old had a down year, obviously, but he averaged 6.9 points per game in 2023 with the Detroit Pistons. You will probably remember he was the guy that Paolo Banchero dunked on in the opening game of the season. Joseph is a career 34.9% three-point shooter, made 38.9% from three in 2023. I'm going to throw out 2024 stats. The volume is just not there or anything like that. Joseph is very much considered a good veteran to have in the league. He is someone that's bounced around. The Magic will be his 7th team in 14 years. But he is a solid defender for his size. He is not going to make mistakes. He is not going to take shots. Give him an open shot, he'll make it. He'll make sound decisions, but he's not much of a playmaker. He is, he's not a vibes guy in the way Joe Ingles was a vibes guy, but he is a veteran that is there to simply just be present and be present in the locker room. Be a guy that guys can turn to in the locker room. Be a guy that in practice will run the stuff, not make mistakes, not do too much. This is a 15th man in every sense of the word. And I felt like the Magic were going to end up using this 15th man spot on a veteran point guard. I was not disappointed, obviously, in that. I was either thinking a wing, a 3-4, or a veteran point guard. They went veteran point guard, and that's really what Joseph is going to bring. The Magic signed him to a 2-year deal. The second year is apparently a team option, according to our friend Jason Beatty of the Orlando Sentinel. But this is what the Magic needed to complete the roster. If you look at their depth chart now, obviously Jalen Suggs is going to start. That is the place that everything starts. Our starters are pretty set. Jalen Suggs, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, Wendell Carter. We'll talk Wendell Carter next week. I wrote a big thing on him. We'll talk a little bit about that next week. That's pretty locked in, pretty set. Your backup point guard now is, however you want to order it, Cole Anthony, Anthony Black, Cory Joseph. I would say Anthony Black will play some 2. But, again, those are your point guard options. Gary Harris, Jet Howard can play the 2 or the 3. Tristan Da Silva can play the 3 or the 4. Caleb Houston's at the 3. Jonathan Isaac at the 4. And then Mo Wagner and Goga Bitadze at the 5. So you've got some depth. Again, I think the power forward depth is my biggest concern. I will say during Summer League, I think that one area Tristan Da Silva has struggled a little bit, and this is expected for a rookie. But one area Tristan Da Silva has struggled a little bit, in my opinion, is he has struggled with bigger defenders. And so I am a little bit concerned. I think long-term it'll be fine, but for the immediate, I'm a little concerned with him playing the 4 full times. And that's why I think the Magic could have gone with a 4 for this last spot. But I also think it's very possible the Magic are going to be willing to play Wendell Carter, Mo Wagner lineups together, Wendell Carter, Goga Bitadze lineups together, depending on the matchup. If a team's going 2 bigs, they'll go, the Magic should feel very comfortable going 2 bigs with them, with Wendell Carter, Mo Wagner, or Wendell Carter, Goga Bitadze. Again, you can easily slot Jet at the 3. You can slot Tristan at the 4. You can slot Anthony Black at the 2 or the 3. This is the versatility the Magic have. And so the Magic feel like they have a pretty complete roster. If we're looking at what the rotation is going to be, again, starting lineup set, Suggs, KCP, Franz, Paolo, Dell. That's your starting 5. Like, that's going to be unquestioned. Those are the 5 guys. If we're going with a 9-man rotation, we're probably looking at Anthony Black, Cole Anthony. Gary Harris is probably going to get some minutes early on. Jonathan Isaac and Mo Wagner. Tristan Da Silva is going to fill in. He may take some of those Gary Harris minutes. Jet Howard has looked like he's capable of taking minutes. There's going to be a lot of competition in camp. And frankly, I do think Jamal Mosley will stick with the 10-man rotation like he did last year. I think he will give guys an opportunity. And again, we'll see how things grow and shrink as the season moves on. But there's going to be real competition here in training camp because, look, whether Jet Howard's ready, whether Tristan Da Silva's ready, we'll find out in camp. They look ready in Summer League. And we're going to talk a little bit about them here in a minute, but those guys look ready to contribute and do something meaningful for this team. And, if you listen to me, I am still a Gary Harris believer. I think he will be much more effective off the bench. The Magic are certainly really covered if guys get hurt outside of Paolo and Franz. Because again, that's kind of the only 2 playmakers the Magic have, which is a little bit of a problem. But the Magic have depth, and so look, Cory Joseph again. He's not going to play. He's not going to be part of the rotation. He is there to help out in practice, be a third point guard. Be someone that the Magic can trust. They can have their flexibility with that. If he plays, I'm not worried about him making mistakes. Is he going to make an impact? Is he going to score 15 points on a random night? Probably not. That's not the role that the Magic are asking him to play. And so this is just filling out the roster. And obviously we've got a very deep roster, it feels like. There's some rookies in there that we gotta worry about and wonder about. But even if those rookies don't play, Anthony Black, very capable of playing, very capable of stepping in. Cole Anthony, for all his flaws, is a quality bench player, in my opinion. I do think he's a quality bench player. He's the right player for this team. I think that's something we'll find out this year. Jonathan Isaac is a game-changing defensive player. The Magic do have 9 guys very easily that they can comfortably play before we even get to Tristan da Silva and Jet Howard. And that's a really comforting place to be here as we get set for training camp, as we start thinking about October and thinking about it all. But that's where we'll stop for now. We'll stop there. Let's talk a little bit then about the Magic's Summer League loss to the Brooklyn Nets, why three-point shooting has been a major plus and why it's still the problem. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. We are slowly ticking to the end of Summer League. The Magic will play their final Summer League game on Sunday. We'll have coverage of that game on Locked On Magic. We'll recap all of Summer League next week as well. But the reason why we're not leading with Summer League today is the Magic sat all the players that we care about. Again, no offense to Jay Huff and Xavier Moon and Teo Maledon. They played awesome. Really liked what we saw from them. But Thursday's game was for the deep bench guys. It was for the non-roster players. Tristan da Silva, Jet Howard, and Anthony Black all sat out. It's currently unclear if any 3 of those will play in Sunday's finale. I am checking my phone. I have not gotten when Sunday's game is yet. We'll probably learn that on at the end of the day, Friday. But look, we're here to talk about the roster players. A lot of these Summer League guys, obviously there's no roster spot for them now anymore. Cory Joseph was in Vegas talking to Magic players. So there's a lot of confirmation. There's no press release confirmation, but there's confirmation that he is going to be involved with Magic in some form or fashion. There's no roster spot. There are 2 two-way spots, but it's not clear how the Magic yet are going to fill them. The Magic have a good Summer League roster. They got quality players. We've talked about them throughout the course of the week, but the Magic's 102-100 loss to the Nets, to me, and again, was very similar to what we've seen from the Summer League team, especially the last 2 games. The Magic got off to a slow start. They fell behind big. They fought their way back. They got back in the game, and then like they did against Memphis on Wednesday, they ran out of steam. They kind of just slowed down, and the train, saying it went off the tracks isn't quite accurate, but the train slowed to a halt. And again, the Magic fought their way back to get to overtime. Jared Rhoden with a big 3-pointer to send it to overtime. A big 3-pointer to tie the game at 100, make it dormy, make it next basket wins. And then Jalen Wilson hit a nice runner over Jay Huff. Huff said after the game he was a little late on it, but a big shot that put the game away and gave the Nets the 102-100 victory, eliminating the Magic from the Summer League playoffs. Again, the Magic will play their final Summer League game on Sunday. The thing that I noticed, though, in this game of runs, and this may be something we dive into a little bit more next week as well, 3-point shooting really matters. That's an obvious statement, but this individual game was such a game of runs, and it depended so much on 3-point shooting. It just reminds you how vital 3-point shooting is to success or failure with this Magic team. It's a reminder of how important it's going to be and how important it is to make threes. Like, again, simple statement, obvious statement. I'm not breaking any news here. The Magic were a bad three-point shooting team last year, and it's something that everyone recognizes they need to correct and something that everyone's a little bit worried about. Just looking at this game individually, the Magic shot the ball well. 11 for 29 from three is pretty good in a 40-plus minute game. But Brooklyn was 17 for 39. And this gets to one of the big problems the Magic have. The Magic have two problems when it comes to their three-point shooting. They don't shoot a good percentage, and they don't shoot enough threes. They're low percentage, low volume, and you can't be low percentage, low volume. You don't want to be low percentage at all, and you can get away with being low volume, high percentage, but low percentage, low volume is the worst thing you can be. Low percentage, high volume is also pretty bad, but at least you're getting up enough. The Magic made the fewest threes in the NBA last year. One thing they have to do is they have to incorporate more three-pointers into their game. And look, 11 for 29 shooting from three is not bad. They got 2 threes from Jared Roden. They got 2 from Teo Maledon. They got 2 from my guy, Talon Cooper. The Magic make threes. And in fact, the Magic are making threes in this summer league. Orlando is shooting really well from three. 39.3% from three during summer league, among the best percentages in Las Vegas. They're actually getting the volume up too. And even in Wednesday's loss, they shot 11 for 27 from three. That's 40.7%. Again, get that volume up a little bit. And that was a big reason why they came back in that game. It's a big reason why they blew out the Cavs on Friday. It's a big reason why they had the big second half against the Pelicans. They took and they made threes. Now, it's summer league. What translates? What's going to carry over to the main roster? So I'll tell you this. The reason why the Magic lost the last 2 nights and really should have lost on Sunday as well against the Pelicans is their defense is wildly inconsistent. Summer league fouls happen. It is what it is. That's the nature of this stage of the season. But the Magic are not defending the way that the Magic will in the regular season. So I'm not completely worried about a lot of things. There is one thing, though, that I do feel like will translate, and this is probably the big takeaway. So thank you for getting 27 minutes in to get to my point. To me, the biggest takeaway from Summer League is that Jet Howard and Tristan da Silva can shoot it. Tristan da Silva has hit 10 of 17 three-pointers on his way to 17.7 points per game. Howard has hit 10 of 21 three-pointers on his way to 19 points per game. Both have shown they are capable of hitting spot-up threes very comfortably, the kind of threes that will get set up for them when they play in the regular season. And so as we begin to think, okay, we're looking at three-point shooting, we're looking at at the Magic's relationship with three-point shooting, and thinking about Summer League specifically, like, look, I like Talon Cooper. I hope he's on the Osceola Magic next year. I'm not concerned about him going 2 for 2. That doesn't concern me. Now, Tristan da Silva making 3 of 6 the other night, Jet Howard making 4 of 7, whatever it was, that stuff will translate. And if you take that with adding Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who shot 40% or more in 3 of the last 4 seasons, you take that with Paolo Banchero improving to 30, 33, 34, 35% last year, and then shooting 40% in the playoffs. You take that with Jalen Suggs shooting 39% from 3. If he stays at the 38, 37% range, the Magic will be a vastly improved three-point shooting team, especially if you add players like Jet Howard, players like Tristan da Silva into the mix as more shooting. Honestly, as good as Tristan da Silva is at everything else, his shooting has been the big standout skill to me. I was not expecting him to be this proficient as a shooter. And if that carries over to the regular season, the Magic are cooking. Plain and simple, the Magic are cooking. And so I am hopeful, and obviously Franz Wagner is a big piece of this too. Getting from 29% back to 35% from 3 would be game-changing for this team. I will argue this later in the summer. The difference between the Magic being the offense that they are, and I don't want to say a really good offense, but at least a league average offense, it's not going to be very much. It's turnovers and three-point shooting. It's not much. They're knocking on the door. It's just about doing it. And that's going to be the thing. The Summer Magic are showing us that this team can have a better relationship with three-point shooting. Now, the Magic are adding 2 shooters to their regular rotation, to their roster, in addition to KCP. And to me, that is encouraging. Like, look, the Magic are 2-2 in Summer League. Close losses in the last 2 games. It stinks. Not competing for the Summer League championship. It stinks. Like this team has played well enough to get there. But undoubtedly, this summer has been successful because it does look like the Magic are adding some shooters and are going to solve, or at least have a solution for one of their big problems. Of course, we will see how it all plays out in October and November and into the regular season. We'll see how it all plays out. There is a competition. Jett Howard has to prove he can defend. Tristan da Silva is still a rookie. He will make mistakes. There's still a lot of work to do. But it does feel like the Magic have made some three-point shooting gains. And we can see that in these losses. We can still see how important and feel how important three-point shooting is for this team. It is something we will continue to focus on. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at @PhilipRR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all of them makes known podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can, of course, follow us there on Twitter at @OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page here, Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. Now that you're done listening to me, be sure to check out the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube and now available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Have a great weekend, everybody. Open Championship, big weekend for all of us. Big weekend, all sports world. We'll talk to you again after Sunday's game to wrap up Summer League. We'll break down that game and talk about what we've learned from Summer League. We'll get to that on our next episode of Locked On Magic. But until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.